on this journey is Timmonsville, South Carolina. As y'all know, I am from Timmonsville, South Carolina. Now a life coach, but formerly the girls basketball coach. How y'all doing? But first and foremost, what I am going to do today is I'm going to make sure that I interview and introduce you all to each one, say, of the guests and vendors who are participating in this event. My first guest, and make sure you know. Oh, okay, I see you. Thank you. My first guest is Miss Evonne. She is Evonne Young, and I'm gonna bring her over to introduce herself in her own way. Say the call over.
Hey! I'm Evonne Young, better known in these streets as Coach Vaughn. I help professional women find clarity and purpose through overall mental health and well-being. I'm also a mindfulness coach. I'm an author, a speaker. By day trade, I'm a mental health professional, and I am also the ICT supervisor, where I go out to the community and help individuals with their overall mental health and well-being. And I am so happy to be here today with you, Miss Green.
And Miss Evonne doesn't know it yet, but she's about to be my mentor. My life coach needs this journey. She's gonna be my mentor, so I get a live mentor instead of one that's across the country.
I think I'm finding out just now.
Well, we are here at the PD Black EXPO,
Yes.
Shop and Network Market.
Yes.
And it's one of the events where the actual host, and I'm going to bring them on in a little bit so they can give you more information about it. They actually reached out to me probably about a month ago. They follow my podcast, which is Life According to Creed, the podcast where everything is about my platform is all about self-awareness, self-love, whether you're 2 or 22, because I started off dealing with you young women, coaching. I love basketball, but my drive for basketball coaching was wanting to be a part of girls' lives and show them something different, show them that you can be a multifaceted woman, not only be this or that, or just an athlete, or just a student. You can be that. You can go out there and sweat and play ball and everything and cross people over, but you can also go when you come out. You can come out. You can be dressed. You can be this. I want to know that you are more than just whatever we're identified as.
Absolutely.
By the world.
Multifaceted
So I went from that, and it was like, okay, the school closed. People know in Timmonsville our school closed, and our kids went to Florence.
Yes.
And I was like, so what am I going to do with this? Because this is in me.
Right.
And it went from my podcast that I started back in 2019 to me being asked through TikTok, do you do life coaching? And I'm like, no.
Girl.
I was like, other than me talking to my friends and family, no. And they were like, oh, well, if you ever got into it, and I was like, I don't even, and then I waited another month or so, and I was like, I wanted these classes for that.
There are.
and then that's what I did. I was like, okay, are they? And then I learned so much, the difference between therapy, having a life coach, and where it starts and where it starts.
Yes.
And we're more of the now than the why, and all that stuff. And I was like, okay. And the school that I went through actually assisted with setting up platforms to offer services, and I've been doing it ever since.
But you know what, Creed? You've been a life coach the whole time. Your experience prepared you to coach other people. What is it that you were passionate about?
People.
What is it that you create who they are? And who are they?
Everything.
What's everything?
Everything to me is with people, is finding that thing that uniquely makes you you. Even if it's something very small, because a lot of times people overlook and glance over things, and it's like, well, this is just how I am. But that just how I am could be the very thing that someone that you know who's keeping them going by watching you just be who you are.
Right.
So, I like people discovering things about themselves and learning about themselves and wanting to know about themselves and taking their past experiences and being able to apply them and know, and be able to see more of where they're going. Because I have a lot of people that I experience, they don't know where they're going. I thought it was just something with my girls, like my younger girls, but no, I know women my age, I'm 42. I know women my age that are just as lost as my babies were, and my babies still talk to me. And I was like, the girls that are in their 20s now, they still talk to me. The
Right.
girls that are, you know, in their early 20s, they still talk to me. Like, it can be coincidence. But even in my regular job, like my 9 to 5, I do medical billing.
Okay.
I've been doing it for 21 years.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, 21 years.
Uh-huh.
My biggest issue with that whole work is productivity and all that kind of
I'm
stuff.
familiar with that.
Their biggest thing is getting your work done, getting it done, getting it
Yes.
done. My biggest issue with every single company, luckily now I work for Veteran Affairs, so
Okay.
it's government and a little bit less stress. But I get to deal with people more. But my biggest issue was I would hospital claims, so I knew they were older people.
Right.
So even though I know that I'm supposed to be getting this money for this facility, I keep thinking about the fact that that's somebody that's my mom or my dad or my grandmother's age, and they probably don't understand what they've been looking at. And that's why like that was one of my issues. Like
because you see how I extracted that out of you. That's what good coaches do. We extract information, we pull it out, and see, all you're gonna do is just be that person to help them navigate and hold them accountable. Yes, that's what good coaches do, and you're doing it. You're putting in the work. I mean, yes, I'm certified. I went through champion influence coach. Shout out to Master Coach Toya Smith. Yes. And I'm also a professional mental health therapist. So sometimes it kind of, but then I have to remind myself, what is it that I want this person to do? When I really want them to put in the work, okay, let me ask those questions that's going to pull out that information from them. When I need to process someone who's in some unresolved trauma, going back to the why, helping them with their thoughts, their feelings, and how they impact their behaviors, then that's when I'm the therapist.
Mm-hmm.
See
and what I've learned over the past couple of months with the people that I've dealt with, because I know a few therapists, two in the area, two that are in North Carolina, and I've actually had to refer them. You know, and I'm like, and they're like, well, why would you look? No, honey. You don't need me.
Right.
You don't need me, so I want to get you where you need to
Absolutely.
be. Because with me experiencing going through therapy, myself personally, it's like everything, and I tell people everything doesn't require just conversation. Some things require conversation with a little bit more extensive digging and things. Everything, you can't talk everything, you just can't talk everything off, keep moving.
That's true.
So, and I learned that for myself a few years back. Actually pre-pandemic, a lot of people started getting, talking about, mental health awareness and all that. No, pre-pandemic.
Oh yeah,
pre-pandemic.
Yeah.
Which made pandemic a lot better.
It has. Post-pandemic, we still do have people struggling with anxiety, depression. Back here this past May, you see me wearing my shirt, Hope Begins With Me, Mental Health and Wellness, because I did a conference. I hosted my very first mental health and wellness conference in Florence, and it's going to be an annual event. So May 18th next year, still looking at the venue, because the first venue, it was just too small. It was great to start. It was great to get birth.
In your mind, that was it.
Yes, but now then, when I actually did it, and when I saw it, was like, a wise man taught me, when something is 80% full, then it's time to go up. It's time to level up. So next year, I'm hoping to have it a little bit bigger. Getting out to schools who have social work programs, therapy programs, inviting them, getting the community involved, especially as it relates to the mental health of Indigenous people of color, BIPOC. We are a very underserved community, and mental health issues are real. It stops us in our personal as well as our professional development. A little bit how I got into this, I've always been interested in behaviors from a child. I'm going to tell my age a little bit, not directly, but we've already had that discussion about the wisdom strain. Yes. I started watching the movie Sybil. Sybil was a young woman who suffered from mental health issues. She had over 100+ different personalities. And at that time, it was called multiple personality disorder. But now it's called dissociative identity disorder. So it's a total disorder. Since being a therapist, I've only gotten to see that one time in the actual clinical setting, and it's real. And it's the underlying cause of it is from trauma. From trauma.
From disassociating yourself so much.
Yes, because you have to. The movie Gabrielle City was Princess. Was it Princess? What was Gabrielle with Monique in it?
Oh God.
Precious.
Precious.
Precious she displayed the form of it in the movie when she was being raped by her stepfather. She just literally had that out-of-body experience, and she just took herself out of that moment and just go someplace else. You know, and having to go through the trauma of having this man's children. So that's where it started at. You know, I myself, you know, I didn't realize that civil was a setup for me in my life. You know, went through domestic violence. I watched my father beat my mom. I can remember us as children having to run off. My mom always talking down to me. No man wants a woman with a big butt, but I'm here to tell you, hey,
this is how the world changed.
Hey, I embrace it. Being a big girl, not really fitting in. You know, my own sexual traumas, having been through certain things, and then other issues. A teen mom. I had 4 children by the time I was 22. So I've been through a lot. you know, moved from New York to South Carolina. Total culture shock. Total culture shock. But one thing I always had was a drive and a purpose to do better for myself and for my children. Even been through homelessness, but I just knew I could not stop there. I could not let my story end like that. Being a single woman, Black mom to 4 sons, I could not let that be my story that I saw as Claudine. Well, yeah, I've been on the welfare. Yes, I've been on food stamps, but they were my means to an end. So
as they were made to be.
As they were made to be, absolutely right. So when I was going through my divorce, I said, Lord, I've got myself. I have a very limited family here. How am I going to take care of these kids? And so just like as Moses faced his Red Sea, I had to face mine. You know, I wasn't going back to New York because I came from one year.
Going back up there, like, there's no way.
There's no way. So I had to just stand there with my rod in my hand and say, Jesus, this is up to you. Because where you lead me, this is where I'm going to go. I started out in nursing. I wanted to become a registered nurse. I was flunking them classes like I don't know, like I was going to flunk first grade, never flunked a grade in my life. But I was flunking them classes. I've always been smart. But that wasn't what God had for me. When I took my first psychology class, it was everything. Everything fell in place. So I got my associate's degree. You know, being homeless, living in a hotel, me and my kid, honey, the car got repossessed. I drove the church van to school. They're looking at me, because I drove the church van, because where there was a will, there was a way.
And I'm going to get there.
And then I went through that. I went and got my bachelor's degree. I ended up having to have 2 surgeries. I had to have my gallbladder removed. Then I had to have a thyroidectomy. Still going through that thing. By that time, the kids were going through school. Grandchildren started coming because So I had to raise the kids and start raising the grandchildren. My youngest son was graduating from high school. I was with my grandbaby on my hip. So there'd be times I'd be typing up paper just as fast as I type, she'd wipe it all off. But you know what? I said, Lord, to you be the glory. Then I went on, I got my master's degree. And I said, you know, I couldn't stop. So I got 13 hours towards my doctorate degree in psychology. And, you know, went through a bad relationship. And, you know, there was a point where I had little passive ideations where I was like, you know what, why be here? But I realized I got purpose. And I created my own life journey. That's why my coaching business came into existence. Because a lot of people dictate and they tell you that, oh, you got to do this to heal, you got to do this to heal. That's not true. I created my life therapy. I met a young woman in the DMV. She was running online herself. And she helped me, and she's in my book, became my bonus daughter, because I needed her just as much as she needed me. And that's when I really tapped into who I was, and I found my voice. And I said, you know what? I got to keep going forward. So then, fast forward a little bit, my father passed away. And that was like the day before his birthday. That morning that that I found out he passed. Now, mind you, he'd been in the house dead for 3 days up in New York. It was the day before his birthday. I had to hop on a flight, get back to New York. Well, should have been planning his birthday. I was had to plan his funeral as soon as I hit the ground. And so I was like, here I am, a therapist. How do I cope with this? So that's when I got my book, Creative Life Therapy. This is going to teach you how to cope. It's going to teach you how to navigate through life storms, through the depression, through whatever, because it does have an effect on our overall mental well-being. And if you're not cognitively where you need to be, you're not going to be productive or effective in any area, personally or professionally. And I saw both of them, my lives suffer because of my mental health stuff. And like I said, I'm a therapist. It's one thing to sit on this side of the desk. It's a whole different story when you're sitting on the other. So I myself, I've been in therapy. I've had mentors, I've had coaches, because I realized I am my greatest asset. And for the longest time, I was ashamed to tell my story. So this is the very first time in public that I've really been this open about my story, because this is what I had to go through to get to where I'm at. I always wanted to be a business owner, and I'm doing it. I'm living it. There's the little girl in me. I'm living that little girl in me.
Because she knew what she wanted to do.
She knew what she wanted to do. So I was thinking about this morning. I was like, you know, the 10, the 15-year-old woman, even the 20-year-old, the 30-year-old woman. I heard what you say that there's women in their 20s and their 40s. I was in my 50s when I found out who I really was, and my voice mattered. So being a middle-aged woman and doing all of this, it can be done. Never stop. Never give up. This is the baby book, but I've got other books coming. I've got other things that I'm doing. In the community, I'll help churches establish mental health and wellness programs,
Which is needed.
which is very needed. You know, shifting the culture of mental health into worship, because we need that. We need that, especially in the Black community. Working with emotionally, behaviorally challenged children, I do a lot of that with the mindfulness, being able to settle them down, because these are the tools that has worked for me to get me to where I can be, you know, without judging myself.
Right.
Now I have
That's what I was saying. It's things that I learned that were taught to me when I was a child, as far as, because I'm pretty sure I had ADHD, but I was born in the 80s. So there was no such thing as that. But I'm sure at this point that's what I had. But I remember I had a teacher, second grade, say Miss Stevens. I don't know what her background was or what, because I was 8, but she had a way of, no matter how I walked in that room, because I always did all my work, but I would come in sometimes on 10, and sometimes on 15.
Oh,
there was no 5. Yeah, there was no 5, there was no 8, there was 10, and then 15. But she had a way that she would call me up to her desk, had me sit beside her for a little while. She would talk to me, she would sit, and she would hold. She would put my hands on top of her head, and then put her head on top of mine. And she would just have a conversation with me. And I would go home and tell my parents about the conversation. But that was the way that she would calm me down, to get me back, to refocus me, to be able to sit down and do my work. I realized I would leave, and that's, as a grown woman, I realized anytime I would get anxious with work, because I have anxiety. You say I was diagnosed, and people don't believe it, but I have really high social anxiety.
Really?
And it stems from me moving as a child. My father was military.
Okay.
So I was the new girl.
Okay.
At least 15 times over my childhood, between moving, retirement, trying to find where we wanted to be permanently and things like that. So I always walked into a room and I was always taught, you know, don't be scared, don't be afraid, you know, everybody's new, everybody, you know, we're in the military town, you know, but I would always have that fear walking into the room, to where I developed, to where I would say, okay, when I walk in this room, even though I'm scared to death, I'm just gonna talk. I'm just gonna talk. I'm just gonna speak. Whoever the first person I see, I'm gonna speak. And I did from a little girl. So when I would tell people, I was like, no, I talked to my therapist. She said I have social anxiety. And they're like, there's no way you have social anxiety. You don't care who you talk to. That's not what it is. It's not a matter of me being able to speak to people in a room necessarily for me. I said it's everything that leads up to me walking into the room. It's the first 30 minutes of me being in that room. I said even with people that I know, if it's an unfamiliar setting to what I'm used to setting with them, it automatically comes up. But I realized over time, I do that to myself. When I'm nervous, I sit and I cover my head. And I sit there for a little while, not bothering anybody. And I used to get picked on. They like, oh, so is that your, like my family was like, oh, so that's your little cute girl look? Like I didn't even realize I did until I went there with you and I was doing it. And she was like, that's how you calm yourself.
Yes.
When you get to a room. Even when I was a little girl, I was doing it when I was going to class. I was so nervous about going to school, then I would act, and that's how she. So even something from when I was a kid still works for me now, and that's what I want to get into. I want to get into being able to show people ways, even physically, to cope, because a lot of times they don't. I've known and talking some people down because I dated someone who was a little different, and I learned a lot from
We've all done that.
That was a little different. And I remember people saying, he's like, he crazy. And how you date him and he crazy? And I'm like, well, he's not crazy. I know now. We're beginning my education on the subject, maybe. Yeah. But at that time, but I knew how to speak to him to calm him down. I knew how to position myself in a public stand to bring him down, calm him down.
You were his grounding tool.
I was it. When I was no longer there, then it went left. But I want people to be able to recognize it, because a lot of times we don't even recognize the things that help us out. We don't even think about it. It's just something that we just do.
And that's when you become an autopilot. And that's where mindfulness helps. And this is where, like, my cycle, I've been doing mindfulness-based stress reduction, and I'm trained in it out of the University of Massachusetts with John Cabot. And my psychiatrist, our chief psychiatrist, she's Indian, so they practice it. And while I was going through what I was going through, she was like, Evonne, you gotta calm down. You gotta come, a little bit more centered ground. You're allowing life. And I was just an autopilot, think I'm doing fine. But when it was brought to my awareness, that's number one. I heard what you said about awareness. And then having the motivation, you know what, let me increase my insight. Because a lot of people, oh, that's just the way I am. They have a very poor insight into who they are because they're not ready to accept something's not right with me. Yeah. So I got in the program. It was an 8-week program. Started. My first patient was my grandson, one of my grandsons. And whatever I learned in school, I always tested it out on myself, my grandchildren, whoever. And my children would get to the point, Mommy, we're not patients. I'm like, okay, I get that. But my grandson, true story, they tried to say the child had ADHD, had autism. My daughter-in-law, this is her first child, and she wanted to have a second child. And I'm like, no, he doesn't. No, he doesn't. But this is what the professionals say. I said, am I not a professional?
We saw a lot of that in the school.
Yes.
I was in school district for 3 years.
Right.
Not into over in Florence.
Okay.
And that was, autism was a new thing. And they may be on the spectrum.
Yeah.
But they might not.
Yeah. Right. So I started working with my grandson, started doing the mindfulness with him, giving him a safe place to calm down, to deep breathe, and then I'm like, okay, now help me understand how you're feeling. So once he began opening up and identifying his different emotions, and and being able to understand your voice different, it is I can talk. Yes, he began telling me, he began opening up. So probably about our third little session, he tell me what his problem was, why he was angry. Because he had a new sister and he wasn't the baby anymore. And he really felt it. And he was feeling it. And so a lot of children, and this is why I like working with African American children, a lot of children who are deeming behavioral, they have short these targeted behaviors, they don't know how to give their feelings language, give it a name. They can't identify. And that's why I tell people, do not emotionally suppress your children. Regulate their emotions. Let them speak their feelings. They're not being disrespectful. This is how emotional intelligence is created.
That's what we were taught. If you say something,
Yes.
if you're uncomfortable and you say something, you're being disrespectful.
Absolutely.
We were taught it that way. If it's contrary to what everybody else or what the adults are saying, it's automatically disrespectful. And that was one of the things with my son. Cause I have a 22-year-old, and I got one son. I did it one time and I stopped. Cause I just knew. But one thing I wanted to always do with him, I always wanted him to tell me everything. I was like, even if I did, just tell me. And I started that with him when he was very, very small because at 2 he started speech therapy.
Okay.
Before he was even in school, because I kind of like,
okay, you're concerned.
Yeah, I had concern and I wasn't gonna wait for anybody else to tell me, we'll go see. And his speech therapist was really big on doing the speech stuff with him, but she also would go through exercises with him every morning and ask him how he was doing, ask him how he was feeling and things like that.
Yeah.
So when he would come home, that would be his thing. He would want to share everything. Yes, all this and that. And I was like, okay, so if he's doing that when he goes to speech therapy, and I'm like 23. I was like, okay, I need to do that too. Absolutely. I need to make sure, because he likes that. He likes telling me what's wrong with him. He likes telling us. And as he got older and started going through school, that was my whole thing. Like every day, I want to know how you're feeling. If you're walking around here, because he's a quiet person.
Oh, he's an introvert.
Yes, very much so.
Okay.
He participates in everything. Like he's a football player and all that stuff, but when he doesn't have to, he does not. He doesn't interact with people. Okay. So he would be around. I'm like, so how you doing? What's going on? What's up? You ain't say nothing today. And you're like, oh, well. And then he'll tell me everything that has gone on. Oh, wow. Even going up through high school and then high school, because by high school, that's when he got really quiet. When we were smaller, he would volunteer. Okay. By middle school, everything was okay and it's fine. By middle school. And then by high school, he was like, I don't have anything to say. So I started pulling things. Okay. And I'm so glad that I did. Because once he went off to college, when it became very important for me to know. Right. To really know what you're doing. The older you get, and I learned as a parent. This is my first time learning as a parent. The older he gets, the more I need to know. I need to know more now. When he's going off to college, then I need to be because he's not home. But he's so open. Like I have family like, he don't care what he tells. Like, no, he doesn't care what he tells.
Because you create a safe space.
Because I intentionally from the time he was small, said, okay, it doesn't matter what it is. Yes. You tell me. Yes. And they were like, yes, you're treating him like he's your friend. No, not treat him like he's my friend. There's a clear line between that. I'm this mother, he is the child. We got that covered. Absolutely. But if you feel something, or you think something, you tell me, because I know a lot of the girls that I used to work with being in the school system, a lot of them would think things. And I'll automatically start feeling things. Yeah. And then be upset about things. And no one's known the thing because they never said anything. They never said a word. So that was my whole thing. I was like, I don't want him to be that. I didn't want him to be that way. And even my younger nieces and nephews, it's like, they're like, Krista, you talk to them kids like them kids is 30 years old. Well, they talk like they're 30 years old. Kids are not the same. Kids have very intelligent conversations. If you ask them intelligent questions outside of some vocabulary, they probably can answer you very well. Y'all got to just do it. And that's the goal that I want for our culture. Yes. To be able to do that. Because I know back in the day they used to say only certain cultures let their kids talk. Yes, that's true. That's true. But I want for us to be that way soon. That way, when you are 40 years old, you're not having a conversation with your mom about the thing that hurts you. She's 65, you 40, and you've hurt all the past 30 years since you've been 10. Yeah. When you could have resolved it at 10. Yes. Like that's what I want for. That's what I want for us. Yes. Yes. Yeah. And again, it's going to go back to being able to create that safe space to have that type of dual dialogue. You know, and that person, and that's what I tell people, when you feel like your voice is not being heard, who are you doing it for? I said, are you doing it for them or are you doing it for you? Think about it. I'm doing it for me. You may not
get the response that you're looking for. However, no response is a response, so you're gonna have to accept it. But at the end of that conversation, you've done what you've done to make your feelings known. It's up to that individual what they're gonna do with what you have provided them with. Because the other thing is, you can only do one of two things. You can either be in control, and what can you control? Your thoughts, your feelings, and your behaviors. And secondly, you can only take ownership. And what can you take ownership of? Your thoughts, your feelings, and your behaviors. That's the common denominator. So you have to decide, is this a situation I can be in control of, or is this a situation I have to take ownership in? And know the difference between the two.
And that's what a lot of us don't do. Even if we started, we don't finish it.
Exactly. Because you're trying to control the narrative. You're trying to control what you say and how the person responds. And you can't do that. I know one of the most difficult conversations I had to have with my mom, because there were some things that went on behind the scenes, different things. And like you said, you're 30-something, 40-something years old and having a very difficult conversation like that with an aging parent who's 65 years old. Their cognitive processes aren't as sharp as they were when the incidences were going on. And I was trying to tell my mom how I felt, how her behaviors made me feel. And I did the best I could do. And she put up that emotional, because every good defense is always going to be that offense.
Every time.
So she came back to that offense, trying to put that barrier up there. And it's like, you know what, I'm going to pop past this barrier, because I'm going to say how I feel. Because this is how I feel. This is the effect that your behaviors have had on me. But I want you to know your behaviors no longer have reign over me. So you can hang up the phone, what she ended up doing.
Yes, and it's okay.
And it's okay. I'm still love you at the end of the day. You're still gonna be my mother. But you can't never say you left this world without you knowing how I felt. And then I forgive you, because I had to call back and leave the message. I said, because I know you're gonna hear the.
Because I'm leaving the message anyway, regardless of whether you want it or not. Because I need this for me,
Exactly.
and I'm giving it to you.
Exactly.
And it's up to you to accept it.
Exactly.
But you're not going to say you never got it.
Exactly. So I had to create my healing. I had to create and resolve my own new life narrative. So that's why I got creative life journeys, creative life therapy, because you have to be able to create it. What is it going to look like to you when you come through that trauma and everything that's, and I can go into a whole lot. I don't want to dominate the time. And there's a lot of research that's shown, you find new meaning, you find new purpose. Not John Kevin, Viktor Frankl, he talked about post-traumatic growth. He found new meaning. A lot of people stay stuck. This is where I'm determined. No, get out of there. Even when a car gets bogged down, you pull the tow truck, which is your coaches, your mentors, your therapists, your spiritual advisor. They're gonna pull you through, because you gotta keep moving and go beyond that. Exactly. So you gotta create a new narrative for yourself.
Because I have people now go, I know that the person that I was, a lot of people were talking about I look physically different than I did 3-4 years ago. But once they talk to me, they realize, like, I'm still me.
Right.
I'm still me. But my conversation is different. My body language is different. But it's because I actually came from that place, and I'm moving forward. And I want to thank you so much for letting me interview you. You gave me so much encouragement. You have no idea. Because I'm a sponge person.
Oh.
I absorb everything, good and bad. Sometimes, so I know I have to keep myself together, because I don't know what I'm going to get. But thank you so much, and I want you to let them know how they can get in contact with you, your social media handles. I'm going to make sure I double tag you in this video. Stuff that my followers do stuff.
You can follow me on social media. I have my business page, Creative Life Journeys, and Journeys is spelled Journeys. There may be one spelling, but everybody's journey is different, hence that's why it's a different spelling. You can find me on IG, CoachVonne.20_20. I am also on LinkedIn, Evonne L. Young, And you can also find me on YouTube, Coach Vaughn's Coaching Couch. You can email me at Creative Life Journeys. And again, Journeys is spelled JOURNIES@gmail.com. My book is also Creative Life Therapy. It is available on Amazon, so go ahead and order it. If you order it and you're in the PD region and you come across me, hey, Coach Vaughn, I got a book. I would more than happy to autograph it, but I always keep some on hand. So I shouldn't have come in this week, but anyway, that's it happens.
They want to sit alone now.
So that's how you can get in touch with me. Follow me. Like I said, Evonne Young, you're welcome to follow me on Facebook. And that's how you get in touch with me. I'm going to have some great events coming up. Like I mentioned, next year I'm going to have my 2nd annual Mental Health and Wellness Conference. I've got some pretty awesome challenges coming up that's going to help you in your personal and professional development. So get up with me. I also work with churches to establish mental health and wellness ministries within the churches because I am a certified mental health first aid provider. So get up with me, and I thank you for this opportunity. You're so welcome. I look forward to mentoring you.
Black Expo Shop and Network Market. That's a lot for me to say. Make sure that you come up here and check us out. We being quiet right now so I can do this interview. But there's some music up here, there's some art up here. Y'all already know how I am. There's some art up here. Y'all know how my stuff work when I go live, so I can't see who you are, but I'm gonna go out there and check. Come right, I'm trying to come through before you hit up the Gospel Fest next door and the other event down there in Johnsonville. Since y'all love following me, so I'll be back later on. See y'all.
Bye.